The loud clang of metal echoed down the cold hallway of Rikers Island's women's unit. Officer Daniels froze. The cameras had gone black, every single one. For a full minute, no one in the control room could see what was happening inside Cell Block C. Then, through the static, a faint voice broke the silence over the radio. "They're gone. The inmates. They're all gone. Gone." The word hit like thunder. Inside the maximum security section for female prisoners, 27 women had vanished, without a trace. No alarms triggered. No doors were broken. The guards who were supposed to be on duty were found unconscious near the laundry room. It was as if the inmates had simply disappeared into thin air. The warden rushed in, eyes wide. "How does 27 inmates disappear from a locked facility?" she shouted. But no one had an answer. Only one camera had flickered back to life, and what it showed made everyone's blood run cold. A single woman, wearing a torn orange jumpsuit, stood in the middle of the hallway, whispering something over and over. The words were barely audible, but when the sound was enhanced, it sent shivers through everyone who heard it. "They forgot about us, so we made them remember." And then the feed went dark again. It all began 3 months earlier. Rikers Island wasn't just any jail, it was one of the most feared places in America. Most people thought of it as a place for men, but deep inside the massive complex was the women's section, often ignored by the public and even by the system itself. Among the women held there was Jasmine Cole, a 29-year-old who had once dreamed of becoming a nurse. She was serving 5 years for a crime she swore she didn't commit: armed robbery. The night she was arrested, she'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time, and nobody had believed her story. Jasmine's cellmate, Marisol Vega, was different. Tough, quiet, and mysterious. She rarely spoke to anyone. Rumor had it she'd been part of a heist crew before getting caught. She had a scar across her left cheek, and a stare that could silence anyone. But what made Marisol dangerous wasn't her past. It was her ability to make people listen. Life in the women's block was harsh. Food was often spoiled, medical help was slow, and some guards treated the inmates like they weren't even human. Complaints disappeared into files that were never read. Weeks went by without sunlight. No one cared what happened inside. They were, as Jasmine would later say, the forgotten inmates. Then came the day of the blackout. It started small. A flicker of the lights during breakfast. A guard muttered about faulty wiring. But as night fell, the entire block went pitch black. Shouts filled the air. The emergency lights didn't turn on. Somewhere in the dark, someone screamed. When the power returned minutes later, one inmate was missing. Her name was Tina Moore, a mother of 2, serving time for drug possession. She'd been in her bed during roll call, but now her mattress was empty. The only thing left behind was a folded note under her pillow that read, "You forgot me too." The guards searched everywhere. Bathrooms, hallways, even air vents. Nothing. It made no sense. Rikers was supposed to be escape-proof. Jasmine couldn't sleep that night. She heard whispers spreading through the block. Some said Tina had escaped through the laundry tunnel. Others said something worse, that she'd been taken. The next morning, chaos broke out when 2 more women vanished, both from the same corridor. Again, no broken locks, no alarms, nothing. Just an eerie silence. And that was when Marisol stood up during roll call and said something that made everyone freeze. "This place thinks we don't exist," she said calmly. "Maybe it's time we remind them we do." Her words were the spark that started it all. That night, as thunder rolled over Rikers Island and rain slammed against the barred windows, the women began their plan, one that would make the whole world finally look their way. But no one could have guessed what would happen next, because by sunrise, 27 inmates would vanish into the dark. The next morning, Rikers Island was in full lockdown. Helicopters circled above, searchlights flashing over the gray buildings. Dozens of officers stormed through the women's unit, barking orders, slamming open cell doors, and demanding answers. But every inmate who was still there said the same thing. They didn't know what happened. Warden Matthews stood in the control room, her face pale. "Check the tunnels," she ordered. "Every air duct, every maintenance shaft. Check everything." Officer Daniels pointed at the security feed. "Ma'am, the last signal we got was from the east corridor near the laundry room. After that, nothing." The warden's eyes narrowed. "Then that's where we start." Down in the corridor, Jasmine sat on her bunk, trembling. The whispers from last night still echoed in her head. She remembered hearing footsteps in the dark, not one pair, but many. And voices, too, chanting something soft and strange, like a prayer or a warning. When the guards passed her cell, Jasmine asked quietly, "Did they find Tina?" The guard gave her a hard look. "You just worry about staying where you are." Then he slammed the door shut. Marisol sat across from her, calm as ever, staring at the wall. "You feel it, don't you?" she murmured. "Feel what?" Jasmine asked. "The silence," Marisol said. "This place is holding secrets, the kind that crawl under your skin." Before Jasmine could answer, the lights flickered again. Every time it happened, the air seemed to grow colder. 2 days passed, and tension filled the air. The missing inmates still hadn't been found. Some officers whispered that the women must have escaped through an old sewer route used decades ago. Others said it was impossible. No one could survive that without help. Then a discovery was made. A maintenance worker found a piece of cloth, orange like a prison uniform, caught in a rusted vent behind the laundry room. Nearby, scrawled on the wall in black soot, were 4 words. "We were forgotten here." The message sent chills down everyone's spine. By nightfall, rumors had spread through the jail. Some said the missing women had formed a secret group before they vanished. Others claimed they were hiding somewhere inside Rikers itself, waiting for the right moment to strike back. Jasmine didn't know what to believe anymore. All she knew was that Marisol was acting different, quieter, more focused. She had been whispering with other inmates during meal breaks, passing folded notes, and watching the guards too closely. Finally, Jasmine confronted her. "What are you planning?" Marisol looked at her with those sharp eyes. "You'll see soon. But remember, sometimes to be heard you have to disappear first." That night, the lights went out again. Not for a few seconds this time, but for an entire minute. When they came back on, screaming erupted from the upper tier. 3 more women were gone. Guards rushed through the corridors shouting, but no one could explain how it happened. Cell doors were still locked. Cameras had gone black again. The warden was furious. "No one sleeps until we find them," she yelled. But Jasmine wasn't thinking about the guards anymore. She was thinking about the way Marisol had been watching the power cables earlier that day, as if she knew exactly when they'd go off. The following morning, Jasmine woke up to find Marisol's bed empty. Her blanket was neatly folded. Her ID badge lay on top of the pillow. And on the wall, scratched deep into the paint, were the same haunting words that started it all. "They forgot about us, so we made them remember." The "sir" blared once more, echoing through the prison. Marisol Vega, the woman everyone feared and no one understood, had vanished too. The air inside Rikers Island felt heavier than ever. The walls seemed to hum with a quiet dread, like the building itself was alive and listening. Every corridor was guarded, every door double-locked, yet still, no one could explain how nearly 30 women had vanished. Warden Matthews hadn't slept in 3 days. Her office was piled with reports, maps, and blurry camera stills that showed nothing but static and shadows. "We're losing control," she muttered, pacing. "If this gets out, they'll shut this place down." But it was already too late. News crews had gathered outside the island's main gate. Headlines flashed across TV screens across New York. "The Forgotten Inmates of Rikers. Where are they?" Inside the jail, Jasmine sat in her cell, clutching Marisol's old badge. She hadn't spoken since her cellmate disappeared. Food trays came and went untouched. She just stared at the wall, tracing the carved words over and over with her finger. Then, one evening, Officer Daniels stopped by her cell. His voice was softer than usual. "You knew Marisol, right?" Jasmine looked up, wary. He sighed. "We found something in the old records room, down in the basement. I think she wanted us to find it." He slid a small folder through the bars. It was dusty and marked "Closed 2002." Jasmine opened it slowly. Inside were old photographs, black and white mugshots of women who'd been locked up years ago. But something was wrong. The names were different, yet the faces looked almost exactly like the women who'd vanished. Her heart pounded. "This can't be real." "Read the last page," Daniels said quietly. It was a list of names labeled "transferred for reassignment," but the destination line was blank. No location, no release date, just gone. Jasmine looked up at the guard. "They never left, did they?" He shook his head. "No one knows what happened to them. And now it is happening again." Before she could say another word, the lights flickered and went out completely. A cold wind swept through the hallway. Then came the whispers. They were everywhere, soft voices overlapping, chanting the same phrase again and again. "We were forgotten here." Daniels grabbed his flashlight and pointed it toward the corridor. "Stay inside," he shouted. But Jasmine was already on her feet, clutching the folder. From the end of the hall, a faint orange glow appeared, like firelight. But it wasn't burning. It was moving, swirling, as if the air itself was alive. Figures began to take shape in the glow. Dozens of women, their faces pale and calm, wearing the same orange uniforms. Jasmine stepped closer to the bars, trembling. "Marisol?" One of the figures turned toward her. It was Marisol. Her face was expressionless, her eyes distant. She pressed a hand against the glass window of Jasmine's cell. "They'll never forget us again," she whispered. "But now, you have to decide which side you're on." The alarms blared and officers came running. But as they reached the corridor, the glow vanished. Every light flickered back on. The hall was empty again. No sign of Marisol, no sign of the others. Only Jasmine remained, holding the folder and staring at the soot-covered message that now stretched across the wall in huge black letters. "Remember us." The warden stormed in moments later. "Where are they? What happened?" she shouted. Jasmine turned slowly, eyes filled with tears and fear. "They're still here," she said softly. "You just stopped looking." Suddenly, the ground rumbled beneath them, a deep rolling vibration from below the prison. Officers stumbled as dust fell from the ceiling. Daniels grabbed the warden's arm. "Ma'am, the sensors are picking up movement under the facility." "Under it?" she gasped. "That's impossible." But even as she spoke, the floor cracked open with a loud snap, splitting the concrete near the laundry corridor, the same place where the first inmate vanished. A rush of cold air poured out, carrying with it faint echoes of laughter. Women's laughter. The warden's face went pale. "Seal it off!" she screamed. But it was too late. The crack widened, and one final message, drawn in dust and blood, appeared on the broken floor tiles. Words that sent a chill through everyone who saw them. The forgotten inmates were never gone. And then the power went out across the entire island once more. The screams that followed were the last sounds anyone heard from the women's unit that night. To this day, no one knows what truly happened inside Rikers Island that week. Some say it was an escape. Others say it was revenge. But those who've worked there since swear that sometimes, late at night, you can still hear their voices echoing through the halls, soft and distant, whispering the same words that started it all. They forgot about us, so we made them remember.